Hey, what's going on? It's Rick, and here's the question. Should you upgrade to the iPad Air? The answer to that depends upon what version of iPad do you have right now. And also, maybe you have a question, if you've never bought an iPad, is now a good time to buy? Hopefully, I'm going to be able to answer some of those questions in this video. We're going to spin the camera around. I'm going to give you a comparison of performance from the iPad 3rd generation to the iPad Air. I don't have a 4th gen to compare it to, so if you have a 4th gen, you might want to look on YouTube for some comparison videos there to get an accurate representation. But if you have a 3rd gen iPad, an iPad mini without Retina, or an iPad 2nd gen or 1st gen, this will be a good video to show you performance gains. So let's spin the camera around, we'll take a look, and then I'll come back with some final thoughts. Okay, so for our first test, I'm going to do a boot up test. These are both iPads that are running the latest and greatest version of iOS 7. I believe it's 7.0.3. And we're going to do a boot up test here. So let me go ahead and power them on. 1, 2, 3. All right, both have been powered on at the same exact time. And we're going to take a look and see what the difference is. Of course, the iPad Air is right here. The iPad 3rd generation is right here. If you're looking for a comparison to the 4th gen iPad, definitely look here on YouTube. There's a lot of great YouTubers out there that I'm sure they have comparison videos. I just don't have a 4th gen, never picked one up. So the Air is already booted up, as you can see right here, pretty quickly. And our 3rd gen is still booting up here. Once we get this booted up, I'm going to test a couple of games, and then I'm going to be showing you website performance, or what web page loading looks like. And then I'll come back and wrap it up with a few final thoughts. So there you go. 3rd gen has booted up. Let me go ahead and unlock both of these devices and dismiss my battery notification on my Air. Been using this one quite a bit. And I think what the first thing we'll do is let me go ahead and open up Infinity Blade 3, because that is a pretty graphical intensive and CPU intensive game. So right now I do also want to mention all apps are closed. Let me go ahead and double tap and show that to you. All apps are closed on these devices. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So we will see what load times are like. Again, iPad Air is on the left-hand side here. The iPad 3rd generation is on the right-hand side. The Air is already booted up and loaded. Very, very snappy. I mean, if you are gaming a lot on your iPad and you're doing more than just casual games, it's something to definitely consider. As you can see here, the load times are pretty substantial on the 3rd generation. Takes a little bit longer than what it does on the Air. I'm also going to show you, if I can, a couple of other games here, and we'll be shutting down these apps and games as we go. So you can see it has loaded up. So it just depends on what you're looking for. And so far as gameplay goes, very, very smooth on the Air. I mean, there is no stutter. There's nothing like that as I do this. And for the most part, it is also very smooth on the 3rd gen iPad. I mean, you might kind of argue that there's a bit of stutter there, but for the most part, I really don't feel most people are going to notice that. So let me go ahead and close these down. All apps are again closed, and let's see what else we can open up to give an example in gaming performance. So next up, let's go ahead and load Minecraft Pocket Edition. Got them both here, 1, 2, 3. And you can see, I mean, it's pretty much identical. So again, I'm going to venture to say that if you are dealing with casual games, you're not going to notice a huge difference right now. Of course, your more graphical intensive games, such as Infinity Blade 3, is where you're going to see the difference. Let's go ahead and open up Safari. And let me go ahead and close this one down. And let's just start with ESPN. So 1, 2, 3. And we'll see what load times are like. I'm on a 50 up, 50 down connection here. And very, very close. I mean, insofar as scrolling, you can see what scrolling looks like here. It's pretty much equal. If we pinch and zoom, that's what we're talking about here. Some video has already begun playing on this one. For the most part, I'm not seeing a huge difference in website performance. We can also talk about things such as maybe graphical intensive websites. Disney's a pretty good one. So 1, 2, 3, let's go ahead and load those up. And you can see it's already loaded up here on the iPad Air. Everything is already loaded on the page, scrolling through, and you can see it's all loaded on the 3rd gen iPad as well. So a slight nod in the performance of website loading on the iPad Air when you compare it to the 3rd generation. Let's go ahead and spin the camera around and I'll give you some final thoughts. Okay, so it's not a highly technical video that I did here. I mean, there's plenty of people on YouTube that are doing that if you're looking for it. I just showed you a comparison of some CPU-intensive games such as Infinity Blade 3, gave you a casual game, and did some web surfing to show you. So at the end of the day, I break it down like this. If you don't have an iPad and you're wondering if now is the time to buy, I'd say yes, it is. The 64-bit processor, being an A7, is somewhat future-proof. I mean, you're going to be good for the next couple of years at least, possibly even longer if you're a casual user. Even when Apple releases their next version of iPad, which will probably be in a year, this thing is not going to be obsolete. So it's a good buy to go into it now. You might then ask, okay, well, do I wait for the iPad mini with Retina? That's personal preference. I mean, the iPad Air and the iPad mini with Retina, they're supposed to be the same insofar as chipset. So it really comes down to size, and nobody can answer that question except for yourself. If you can get in a store and you can hold a mini, you can hold an Air, see which one's more comfortable to you. Of course, the mini's a little bit more pocketable. It's going to be a little bit easier to travel with, but it is nice to have the bigger screen if you're watching a lot of movies and doing things like that. Again, personal preference. If you're coming from an iPad 1st gen, 2nd gen, 3rd gen, it's a worthwhile update. It really is, especially if you play games, because you could see non-casual games are going to load a lot faster. It's going to be a little bit smoother. And over time, as we see more and more developers taking advantage of the 64-bit chipset, performance is only going to increase. Now, if you're a casual iPad user, unless the size of the 1st gen, 2nd gen, 3rd gen, or 4th gen for that matter is bothering you, it may or may not warrant an upgrade. So, you know, you gotta weigh your options and decide if you want to put down that amount of cash for something that maybe is going to give you about that much performance increase if you're really just casually using your iPad. It is a nice form factor, I'll give it that. Now, 4th gen users, I don't have a 4th gen iPad, so I can't tell you definitively whether it's a worthwhile update for you. Check out YouTube. Lots of good YouTubers out there doing these comparisons. Lots of good articles on it. I can tell you what I've read has been, there's a decent upgrade. It's nothing substantial. And again, if you're doing CPU intensive things, you know, Infinity Blade 3, some of the more CPU intensive games, that's where you're going to see the performance increase. If you're doing things like web surfing and stuff like that, so-so. So at the end of the day, I guess what I'm going to say is, for me personally, the iPad Air is a worthwhile upgrade. And I think that for anybody coming from a 3rd gen down, it's definitely a worthwhile upgrade. It's going to last you for a while, even if Apple updates their iPad in the next year or so. If you're a 4th gen, really question it, determine what your usage is, kind of make a decision on if you want to put the money down for it. And then if you're brand new to the game, definitely, it's a great time to jump in, and then you just need to decide, full size or mini. So there you have it. Nothing too technical, nothing scientific, just some real world, hands-on, my experiences, sharing it with you. If you guys have an iPad Air, let me know down below. Let me know if you just bought into it brand new or if you came from a prior gen, and what do you think of it? So again, I hope this helped some of you guys out. You can always hit me up on Twitter at Metagamers if you have questions about this or anything else, and I'll do my best to answer them pretty quick over there too. So take care, everybody, and I'll talk to you next time.